Good afternoon and welcome to Mike and the Hoss on Wolfeboro Community Television. I'm Mike Danais.
And I'm Charlie Hossack.
Coach, how you doing this week?
I'm well. How are you? What are we like? It seems like week 25, but it's really not.
Well, it's our 6th episode of remote learning, or remote learning.
Remote learning, yeah.
Everything's remote learning right now, but it's our 6th episode of doing this outside of the studio.
Mm-hmm.
7 since we've been closed. We did do one inside the studio.
Good.
It's getting kind of old.
It is. It is. I mean, I enjoy doing the remote show with you. I'm glad we're still doing our show, but it's I mean, honestly, I'm ready to be able to start to do things again.
Yeah. So, yeah, and you know, I mean, I know we're going to talk about it, but you know, there's no guarantee that Monday things are going to open back up in New Hampshire.
Right.
You know, Massachusetts already extended their timeline, so.
Yeah. Well, the bright spot that I did see, I mean, Maine extended theirs, but they also have some things that are exciting, like you can golf in Maine, and they're opening up their beaches. You can't go hang out at the beach, but you can walk along the beach. So that's promising. So hopefully we'll adopt some of the same things in New Hampshire.
Just something, just to get, throw us a little bit of a bone, and just something different. Is maybe spoon feed us every week, give us something a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we are hoping to be able to coach a little this summer, and hoping to get our boys out playing some baseball, and so hopefully as we move along, towards the June 15th, whatever we're thinking, that things will start to settle down with the virus and open up more.
Let's hope so. And we're going to talk about that. So today's show, we'll talk about NHIA, any kind of updates on them, NBA, MLB, NHL, and then summer sports, which, you mentioned briefly baseball just now.
Yeah.
And camps, and if there's anything happening. I mean, there is a little bit of an American Legion update that we could talk about.
Yeah.
There's some glimmers of hope out there. I mean, there are glimmers, but certainly nothing in stone.
Right. Yeah, and when we get to that, I know Montana, and I know we're not Montana, we're New Hampshire, but Montana is going to have Legion balls, so maybe something we can build off with Montana. So, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay.
Anything with the NHIAA? I mean, are you aware of any updates? I haven't heard of any updates since last week's show.
No, the only thing that I had heard, which was, I mean, I don't want to be rumor spreading, but that I saw something yesterday about the potential that schools may open in the fall, but maybe no sports. And, that's, I kind of want it the other way around. And, I know we're teachers first and all that kind of stuff, but we both have kids that are, they're experiencing their 4 years of, sports right now. And, they've lost one of their springs, one of their baseball seasons already.
Yep.
You can't remote coach, you can't remote play sports. We can remote teach, you can remote learn, but you can't really remote and play sports. So
I agree. I look at that too. I mean, obviously, as you already said, we're both teachers. We can teach remotely. We can do it, and we can do it probably quite well. That being said, if we look at the whole social distancing piece, looking at most sports, I think we could have sports. Even if we're remote teaching, we could and probably should have sports.
Let's quickly run through the sports. So how, in baseball, where you have some, in the dugout, I think you'd have to probably, mess around a little bit with the dugout. Maybe how many people are inside the dugout at a time.
Or not use the dugout, just use the fencing along the sides.
Yep. You have that interaction with players on the bases. Obviously, if you're tagging somebody out or something like that, then that's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one with baseball that would concern, it's that umpire, catcher, batter, because they're sitting in a confined space. Even though it's outside, they're sitting in a confined space for a period of time. That's something. So then you move on to basketball, and well, I guess we could talk about the NBA right now.
Actually, let's back up 1 second. So, but just stick with fall sports for a second. Like a sport that I could see that we could easily do would be cross country running. I mean, I know you just fix the start of it. I start, they're usually all together on a chute ready to go. But if you kind of spread that out, I think running could certainly be something we could do.
And golf. I think golf is something that you could pull off. It's a fall sport.
Yeah.
I think football is going to be really tough in the fall to pull that off. I think soccer would probably be one that, there is some close contact with players, but it's instant. I mean, it's not like in football where the lines are all closed up together and they're engaging each other, falling on top of each other, and sweat's flying all over the place.
Yeah.
But I think soccer is something that, that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
I think field hockey could be a possibility too.
Right.
Because for the same reasons that soccer is, I think field hockey is a possibility. I think football would probably be the last one that would come into the mix.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, and the other thing we have to look at is, this is practices for high school sports don't start until August 14th.
Yeah.
So we still have a significant amount of time. I mean, you have all of May, June, July. So we're talking, 3.5 months, for hopefully this all to settle down, or for the scientists to figure it out.
Yes, and let's hope they do. So we're starting to hear a little bit about, like, the NBA announced that they're going to open up practice facilities on May 1st.
Right.
For those states that have lifted some restrictions.
Right.
So now I got a question for you. So Massachusetts hasn't lifted their restrictions. Massachusetts is saying we're stuck until May 18th.
Right.
I believe. You mentioned Montana. There's not an NBA team in Montana, but there's one in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're one of the looser restriction places, I guess, the Midwest stuff.
Sure.
Is it fair that the Thunder can practice, but the Celtics can't?
Well, I think it's fair, because, I mean, the NBA also made it clear that for a lot of these NBA players, like, you don't have a lot of Celtics that live in Massachusetts. So, they live other places. So if they live in areas that have, their gym's able to be open, the NBA said that they would allow players from other teams to work out in their facilities.
Okay, but does an Oklahoma where all of their players can be together working out together, does that provide?
The commissioner, with the basketball, the commissioner said you're not having teams working out together. It's still the social distancing, a couple players here and there. It's not full squad workouts.
Okay. The NHL, I have not heard of any, getting started at all on that one.
Yeah, that's I guess of all the sports that I think we're going to have to say goodbye to, it's probably the NHL. Just because we haven't really heard much. We got excited there for a little while, and they had even mentioned the possibility of Manchester, and then that all fizzled out, and we really haven't heard a peep.
No, you're right. The only thing I've heard about hockey is, besides reliving the 2011 Stanley Cups, and is that Zdeno Chara says that he'll come back and play another year at least. So, which is 44 years old, playing defense in the NHL is pretty cool.
Yeah, Tom Brady-esque.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But so, I think you're right. I think the NHL is going to be a problem. I mean, and I don't know how you could social distance with the NHL just being on the bench.
Yeah. Right.
I think in the NBA you could probably spread that bench out a little bit more, because whereas in hockey, you're limited by the boards, you're limited by the bench guys, and
just the way the arenas are built. With a basketball court, you don't have to have both teams on the same side like they do now. You can put the other team with a cross. You could spread them out. Right. So, yeah.
It's that's pretty sad, especially, I mean, selfishly speaking about the Bruins. I mean, the Bruins were the best team in the league.
I know. They're on their way to win the cup. So,
yeah. So, MLB, there was a lot of talk for a little while, but that seems to have quieted down over the last week. Have you heard anything with the MLB?
No, just the latest thing I heard was that they threw out there that they would you heard about realigning the league, correct? So they would have like an East, a West, a South. So so you would have the Mets and the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, and the West, kind of the East Coast teams, the Orioles, the Nationals. They would all play together. It's 10 teams. So they went 10, 10, and 10. And you saw that, correct?
Not to the detail that you're pointing out. There.
Yeah. So they proposed that, and then that way, they had said they would still play in their home stadiums. So they play at Fenway, and that would kind of reduce the travel because you'd only be traveling, for the Red Sox, it would just be the East Coast up to Canada, and they would do it still without fans, no fans, and play baseball. And they think that might work, and being able to quarantine whoever needed to be quarantined, and that type of checking to make sure everybody's healthy. So that was the latest. I think that was yesterday or the day before. And I know they still have the spring training sites, the Arizona stuff on the table, but a lot of the players, Mike Trout actually being one of them, said, he doesn't really want to be separated from his family for an extended period of time, which I totally get. And then of course the money piece comes in, where the owners are saying, we want to have this baseball season, but the players have to take pay cuts. So that's when you get the Players Association.
Significant pay cuts.
Yes. Yeah.
You're basically only going to be dealing with TV money, and
right.
Where the rest of the NFL, the majority of their money comes from TV, whereas in MLB, the majority of their money comes from stadium and tickets, sales and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But they mentioned they threw out the sorry, I'm being rude. I'm drinking and having ice. So, but oh well, we're socially like that. Seasons. So they wanted them to do 100-game season. Starting. So I don't know. I mean, I think it would be great. But I think it's still a little premature. Let's see what other states are going to do as far as lift restrictions. I think we could go to Texas now. I think we can do anything we want in Texas, right?
You pretty much do anything you want in Texas anyway.
Yeah, true. But so we'll see. We'll see how these other states are going to lift their restrictions and what's going to happen.
And the big fear, obviously, is that second wave, that they start relaxing things too quickly, and then we get another wave before there's any kind of vaccine, and then if they get shut down again, it's going to be until there's a vaccine.
Yeah, you never. I mean, there may never be a vaccine. So.
Oh, that's scary stuff.
Oh, I'm just saying. I think there's.
That's good. All right, that's going to do it for us and Mike on the Hoss.
We're going to shift to medicine. So obviously, I think we still. I'm
going to admit, Josh. Hold on, we could finish this up because he might be able to help us with some Legion stuff.
All right, good.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
Oh, another day.
Well, we'll get to you in a second, Josh. But we brought you in to jump in. We're wrapping up. We start each show since we've been home with this COVID impacts, and we start with NHIA, NBA, MLB, NHL, and so on. And we were just going to summer sports, summer baseball, and things like that. And there was a little update with Legion, that they're having a meeting, decision May 22nd, or meeting May 22nd, or something like that. That the Legion, whoever the president of the Legion is, whatever, I don't know how that's run, but they had to submit a proposal to the state about what they would do to keep everybody safe. And decision is going to be made. May 22nd is the date that I had heard that the decision was going to be made, whether they're going to have a season or not. There are a lot of states that have already canceled their Legion seasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that are canceling a lot of things this summer, and I was just watching. They were talking about even into the fall. So I mean, there's just everything is being impacted. I don't think there's anything that's not being impacted at this point.
I mean, they canceled the sandwich fair on us.
Oh, well, my goodness gracious! I don't know how you go with that.
What am I going to do? Where am I going to get my fried dough?
They already canceled Sandwich Fair?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Freiburg is canceled too?
I hadn't heard anything on Freiburg yet. The New Hampshire, I think, Sandwich, Lancaster, there was like 4 of them in New Hampshire that canceled. Not all of them have yet, but
I think the only one hanging on is Deerfield.
I think there's a couple of them still hanging on. I think I was reading somewhere, but
Yeah. So who knows?
And that's October. So
that's Columbus weekend. Yep.
Yeah, but they have to start planning that stuff so far in advance that if you book all these acts, or whether it be at the carnival rides or whatever. You book all this stuff now, and then come October, you have to cancel it, and you lose all your money because you're still paying them. So you make that decision now. I get it when you're dealing with something of that big a proportion that you need so much stuff from outside to come in to run it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Josh, welcome to come on the show. It's always nice to have a local celebrity with us.
Yeah.
We've all been getting a kick out of your morning walks and your social media posting with that.
Yeah.
So let me ask about that, because I'm impressed, Josh. I mean, how many miles a week are you walking? It seems like you're walking like 100 miles a day.
No, I do. I've been doing about 10 to 12 miles a day between two different. Like I go in the morning and then I go at night.
That's great.
It's just something to get me out of the house. It's driving me crazy. I can't sit around for too long. And I always love watching TV, but I'm like, all right, I can only watch so much before I have to get up and get out of the apartment for a little while. So
yeah.
Now
you live in Ospey, correct?
Yeah, I do. But there's no sidewalks where I live, so I go to Wolfeboro and I walk in Wolfeboro in the sidewalks.
Yeah, I was going to say, you take your photos. I love it. So that's great.
So
that keeps.
Josh, you've obviously been impacted quite a bit through this whole thing, and one of the big things that impacted was the Olympics that you were supposed to go this summer. Update as far as what's happening with the Olympics and how that affected you?
I mean, obviously, they what was it? I guess it was late March. They decided, all right, we're not going to be able to do this summer. This coronavirus is too much to deal with. And I think they were thinking more of all of the millions of people coming from out of Japan coming into Japan, and there's going to be so many people. It's just impossible to regulate. So they pushed them back essentially 1 year. It's 1 year and 1 day. I think the opening ceremonies were supposed to be July 24th this year, and they're going to be July 23rd next year, or something like that. Is right. Like it's within like a day of when they were supposed to be. So they just pushed everything back a year. Technically speaking, that doesn't affect me in a main way. I if whatever money I've put down for deposit on my accommodations, I get. It'll just go to the next year. They'll just move. But the problem is it's more of an impact on the Olympics as a whole, because rescheduling such a massive event that starts planning 7 years in advance is a huge undertaking. And trying to do it in 1 year, I mean, they don't know that they're going to have all the media hotels that we're supposed to have. Are they going to have all those still going to be available in a year? And then they have the athletes' village where the athletes all live. And that's supposed to be sold off. It has already been sold off as housing for post games. So those people that were supposed to move in after the Paralympics in September or October, if they move in, are those Olympic villages still available next year? So there's so much they're dealing with, and venues that have booked things in advance that they have to, change their. So I mean, it's a small impact, but for what they have to go through over there, it's a massive impact. I can't even fathom the amount of work that they're having to put in to try to, and the amount of money that's going to take to have to deal with all this too.
Josh, let me ask a question about the athlete side. So, with the postponement of a year, are they going to have to do Olympic trials again? How is that going to work?
Well, anybody who already qualified is qualified. So, like, I know they had the marathon trials. They've had a numerous. I want to say I think it's less than 50% have already held qualifying, but I wouldn't quote me on that. But there's anybody who's already qualified is automatically in. So if you've had your Olympic qualifications, you're in and you're good to go. But what they were running into, one of the big problems they were running into with having them this year was that all these qualifying events couldn't take place. So like the swimming championships that would have had happened before the U.S. Olympic swim trials would have happened this early this summer. And that wouldn't have been. How are they going to be qualified for the Olympics if they can't have those? So that was allowed that more time for those events to take place. They've had to do a lot of rescheduling. Like the track championships were scheduled for next summer, and the World Track Championships were scheduled for next summer, and they had to move those because the Olympics are going to be next summer now. So there's just a lot of moving pieces. But anybody who's qualified is in, and they hope that the rest of the qualifications they dealt with the age limits. Like if somebody or the like there's certain sports where you have to have where there's ages involved, and they said, okay, well, it was your age at the time when the Olympics were supposed to be taking place, so that if you've qualified already, you're in.
Okay, that's good for the athletes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the number one priority when you're dealing with something like the Olympics. The number one priority is the athletes, because this is their moment. They've trained for years to get to this, and it throws a wrench into them having to wait a whole year. You know, they probably planned their training out just right so that they're hitting their peak in July. You know, at the end of July of this year, so when they get to Tokyo, they're ready to go. So now it kind of just throws a wrench in them, and they can't do their typical training right now. You know, they can't really go to gyms and do those type of things. So, you know, they're getting innovative as well. So, and add to that fact, everybody's another year older. So, I mean, some of these people who were on the cusp of, do I go back in 2020, are thinking, now it's 2021, I'm a year older. Do I, you know, even Simone Biles, who isn't that old, but for gymnastics is considered on the older side, she would be like, okay, do I still have to make a decision to go if this is another year in advance? Can I put my body through another year of training to get to do something like this? So.
Right. Now, what events were you planning on going to see?
Oh, I have no idea. Yeah,
you don't have to plan ahead of time?
No, you can pretty much go to whatever you want once you're there. Our credentials allow us to go to any event that's scheduled, as long as it's not what they call a high demand event, which at the Winter Olympics was the figure skating finals essentially, and gold medal hockey games. And for those, you just need to get a special credential from your country's Olympic committee. So once you're there, you can go to whatever you want to go to. So my thing in the Winter Olympics was always just go wherever I can. I want to see everything. I want to see as much as I can. And that was my goal this time around too. I wasn't going to be able to see everything like I could in Winter Olympics because it's so much bigger at the summer level. But yeah, I looked at the schedule and was so daunted by it. I just kind of said, all right, I'm not going to deal with that now. So.
Yeah.
Josh, a follow-up on qualifying. Does each country determine like who can go? I know each country determines who they can go, but as far as if the people that qualified this year are going to be okay for next year, is that done by the country or is that done by the Olympic Committee itself?
Well, I can only speak for the United States. The U.S. Olympic Committee will say, all right, we have this many slots, and then U.S. Swimming will say, okay, when we have our U.S. swimming trials, they'll say, okay, the top two finishers in this event, top two finishers in this event, and they take so event essentially, you know, if you watch the Olympics and you see Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte swimming in the same event, there's a good chance that they were 1 and 2 at the U.S. swim trials, and that's how they got their spots in the U.S. Olympics. So on the U.S. Olympic team. So I mean, there's only a certain amount of spots for each country in each event. So some of the bigger countries get a little bit more of a piece of the pie because they can get, you know, they have more athletes they can possibly go. But I mean, for sports like swimming, you know, there's only particularly swimming, there's very limited spots. So it's, you know, I mean, they have to say, all right, we go to the qualifiers, and when they have this, then they have the qualifiers. Those top 2 people in each event, for instance, would go, and that's your team.
So I'm just thinking of the scenario that, can you name me a sport that they've already qualified?
Marathon is the one that jumps out at the top of my head.
Okay, so the marathon runners, they already qualified, and a year from now, there's a chance that whoever qualified is not going to be our best marathoner.
Oh, that's absolutely possible, yes. But at the same time, that they were training for this winter, this year, and they pushed themselves to get to that extent. So, you know, the U.S. has 3 men, 3 women for the marathon. So if they're pushing themselves to train, saying, all right, we'll peak in July, and they do it, I mean, there's not you don't want to take those spots away from them for those people that worked that hard to get to that. Oh. So I understand it. You can't take away what somebody's earned, and that's no. Yeah.
My point was that I'm totally with you. I think that if they earn it, then they should get it. But another country that maybe plays a little bit more hardcore, like a China or a Russia, that says, you know, they're going to do this again. We're going to be sending our best, no matter, you know.
Yeah.
Tough luck.
That is a possibility, I guess. And I mean, I think that there's a lot of talk about different countries and when they can have qualifiers and who's had qualifiers, because I don't know that every other country's had marathon qualifications yet. I know the United States has, you know, so other countries may have run into the same thing, and can they send their athletes back and qualify again. But the International Olympic Committee, which oversees the entire Olympics, they have said anybody who qualified already is in. So therefore, the country can't change it. So, like, if Russia's marathoners had already qualified, and they say, well, we don't want to send these crew, we want to send somebody else, they can't do that because the International Olympic Committee has already said if you qualified already, you have a spot to go.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that just going back to the question I asked before, you said you want to see everything. What are your favorite like summer Olympic events?
I don't know. You know, I think I want to see things I don't get to see. You know, that's kind of my idea when I go to something like this. So things like, you know, while I get to see the Smith River canoe race, I don't get to see like the slalom canoe races or, you know, just things like that I just wouldn't think of as being surfing, you know, things I wouldn't get to see on a regular basis. And that's what I like to do at the Winter Olympics too. It was the same thing. I mean, you know, I saw a lot of alpine skiing, but I also saw things like, you know, curling and things like, and things like, you know, I guess, you know, when you look at it, you know, biathlon, things that I don't get to see on a regular basis, or I get to see very little of on a regular basis. So the more unique stuff is what I'd like to see, but at the same time, you can't pass up watching, you know, some of these track events where you're watching some of the greatest athletes in the world compete.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, here's a question I actually don't know the answer to. Is handball an Olympic event?
Handball. I do believe it is.
Yeah, I've been watching. It's for some reason, Josh, on my Facebook feed, handball has been coming up all the time, and I've been watching. It's actually very entertaining, but
I'm pretty sure it is actually. I that would be something that I've never seen before.
I think it might. Yeah, I think it might be because it's fun to watch. And last time, I mean, I played handball in PE class.
Okay,
in middle school. You know,
see, something I was interested in would water polo, for instance. I would want to see water polo because I don't live in California where it's a high school sport. Right. You know,
exactly. So. Yeah, I mean, as you know, I went to high school in California. We had our own pool. We had a dive team, swim team, and a water polo team.
Yeah.
And it's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, and I the last 2 weeks on NBCSN, they ran all these old Olympic stuff from Rio and London and Beijing. They've been running all these for like 6 hours, 7 hours a night. They've been running old Olympic events. So I've been watching that for like 2 weeks. I've been watching straight. A lot of swimming, a lot of diving, a lot of, but there was some water polo. There was a bunch of tracks. So it was kind of neat to just watch some of these old events that, you know, I don't quite remember as well, particularly when I started getting back into Beijing, you know, which was 12 years ago. Right. But, you know, I kind of remember Rio, but I don't, London is a little, but Beijing was like, I don't remember any of this stuff. So
yeah.
It's kind of.
Did you go to Beijing?
No, I've never been to Summer Olympics.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is first time.
Yeah. That was kind of the bummer of the whole thing. It's like, this is a chance to go. But, and they just came out the other day and said, well, if we can't get it done in 2021, we're not doing it at all, which would really suck for everybody involved. I mean, it's you know, it's a, but they also have the Winter Olympics in 2022. So they would back up and back in the day, they used to do the winter and summer in the same year, and it's feasible to be done. But I don't think Japan can't do it in 2022. They can't get it pushed that far. So,
right.
That's tough. Josh, I caught up with your blog a little bit in the past couple of weeks with all this time. Want to talk about that a little?
Well, what do you want to know?
Well, what brought it on? What do you? I mean, are you just pontificating out there, or do you have any specific topics that you like to blog about?
No, I didn't. Nothing struck my fancy this week. I haven't written anything. It's just, you know, I think a lot of it was just, you know, at the end of March, they had us work from home, and that was an adjustment. I'm a creature of habit. I have my routines where I want to do the same thing every day, and I want to be on a schedule that I know where I'm going to be at different times, and I kind of thrive in that. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're no longer going to work in the morning. You're working at home, and you're doing your job at home, and that was all well and good for a week. And then when they put me on furlough, put me out of work, that was like, okay, now, so that was what I was writing about, really, was just that whole, so weird for me. And it still is. I mean, it's 3:30 in the afternoon, and I'm at home
talking to us.
And it's like I would be. It's spring, so I would be going to baseball or going to softball or going to lacrosse or tennis or track or whatever the case may be, and it's very weird. It's just for the first couple weeks particularly, it was just like this is just I'm kind of gotten used to it now, but it's still an adjustment, and it sucks, honestly. It completely sucks. But
we've used that word before, Josh, so don't feel
I could use a lot worse words than that, but I won't do that.
If you're looking for a topic, your experience on a particular talk show would be something you could blog about.
There we go. There we go. I can talk about talking with Mike and Charlie. There we go.
Yeah, that might get you a
paragraph. Hey, I can stretch things out. I know how to fill pages. That's what I'm good at.
That's right. You are good at that.
It's my one marketable skill.
So Josh, since you don't have anything going on, why don't you stick around with us today, and we'll go into the next few topics, unless you have something else to do.
Go right ahead. I got nothing to do.
So our next topic is the NFL draft. Particularly, we are Pat-centric, and we like to talk about the Patriots. But what was your thought? Actually, I'll start with you, Charlie. What was your thought on the Patriots draft?
Overall, I mean, I wouldn't say that I was impressed, but at the same time, I was fine. It seemed very Belichickian, if I can use that term. That some obscure players, but the more that I've kind of had the opportunity to digest who they are, I'm okay with it. I think, I still drink the Kool-Aid. I'm still in Bill We Trust, and I'm okay with everything that's happened in the offseason. And as I said, I don't know if you heard Josh last week, but I'm still going to cheer for, the Patriots are my team, but I'm still going to cheer for Tom Brady down in Tampa, and I hope they do well.
Yeah.
I think that very Belichickian. I think he's really, really testing the strength of that Kool-Aid this year.
Yeah.
And you can always count on him to educate you on the different names of colleges, because he always picks somebody from a college that you didn't even know was a college.
Right.
Yeah, you never heard of. Yeah.
Lenoir Rhine.
What?
Yeah.
So, I'll start with the number 2 pick, or the round 2 pick, Kyle Duggar.
Yeah.
A safety from Lenoir Rhine, a Division II school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this player struggled to make his all-conference teams. This is Division II now. But if you read about it, we're talking immediate impact here.
Yeah, he was the only, I believe, the only Division II player invited to senior day. So I mean, the kid obviously has talent. It was totally, I think. I mean, it seems like it was a bit of a reach. There were other players that they could have taken in that spot and taken him, in the 3rd round or the 4th round.
Just sign him to a free agent contract afterwards.
Yeah. I that was kind of like, what? But you also look at it and you say, well, I mean, he went after needs. I mean, you got, Duggars is basically they say, the experts, they say that he's a Patrick Chung type player. Patrick Chung's getting old, so somebody's got to replace him along the way, and that's you got to look at that. You got to look at those things, and I mean, but again, could you have taken one of those guys who was ranked a little higher, who was available there, and taken Duggar round 4, round 5, round 3, even? I mean, something. I don't know. But there's a plan. I like what Charlie said. You drink the Kool-Aid because it's worked every single time
for 20 years, right?
Yep.
I just wonder, was there anybody else looking at this kid?
Yeah.
First of all, where is Lenoir Rhine? Can you guys point that out on the map?
Nope.
I think Kingswood Regional High School is bigger than Lenoir Rhine. So it's just a real Belichickian pick, and just throwing curveballs at everybody. Hopefully it works out. It reminds me. Remember Tabucky Jones? I think.
Yeah. Tabucky Jones, Syracuse. Yeah,
but just an athlete. It was just an athlete. He wasn't a great polished football player at the time. He was an athlete, and he impacted them. I mean, I don't know if he was a bust or not, but he certainly impacted them.
Yep.
They need a few impact players.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they got that.
Yeah. I don't think they need an impact player, sure, but they had a lot of holes, and I think they filled a lot of those holes, particularly linebacker. You lost Landon Roberts, Jamie Collins, and Kyle Van Noy. So those are your starting linebackers. They went out and they found guys in that in that second, third round that were just guys that are going to fill those holes, and that was a huge need. So you could say, okay, they need receivers, they need quarterbacks, but they need. I think their biggest need was at linebacker with those 3 losses, and so.
Yeah, and I have probably more confidence with Belichick with linebackers than any other position, because Kyle Van Noy was not Kyle Van Noy before he got to New England.
Nope.
Jamie Collins was only Jamie Collins
in New England. Yeah.
And the Landon Roberts, we don't know, but I do find it interesting with linebackers that he certainly brings out the best in the linebackers.
Yeah.
The tight end picks, I'm excited about that. I like the fact that third round tight ends, 2 guys that are friends, they were roommates at the combine.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to start going back to that 2 tight end sets, and both of them can catch passes. So, as for Stidham, who by all accounts looks like he's going to be the guy.
It's not Aaron Rodgers, right?
Well, Aaron Rodgers is probably the one guy that I would say, okay, Stidham, you can sit on the bench for a couple more years.
Yeah.
If we'll get that off.
Brett Favre was just on one of the shows I was just watching. Rich Eisen, I think, and he was talking. He thinks Aaron Rodgers is going to be traded, but.
Well, I heard Denver last night. I heard Denver was in the Patriots were they were talking about the Patriots for a little while, but now Denver's the one.
Who knows? How could the Patriots afford him?
There's always ways around that. If a team wants to get rid of someone bad enough, they're willing to eat a bunch of money. If they're willing to, if they want to move it, or if they're going to get, there's always ways around that.
So interesting. All right. Any surprises out of the draft there, Hoss?
Surprise? Yeah. The round 2 pick, Kyle Duggar, was a surprise.
Yes. Did you guys figure out what Illinois Ryan College is yet?
No, I haven't Googled it yet.
I think the biggest surprise that I saw, they did not pick a quarterback at all. They did sign a couple after they went and signed every quarterback that was left in their UFAs. But them not signing a quarterback, is that a statement about Stidham, or is that to protect Stidham?
My gut tells me that if where were they supposed to pick? Were they supposed to pick like
23 or 24?
23, 24. I really thought they were going to go after Jordan Love. Honestly, I thought, but I don't think he wanted to spend a first round pick on him. I think if he had fallen to that first spot in the second round, I think they would have taken him. That's my gut, I think. But Green Bay kind of surprised everyone moving up and taking him. But I am surprised they didn't get someone. But I mean, they obviously weren't in on Tua or Burrow or Herbert from Oregon State there. So I mean, they weren't in Oregon, wherever the hell he's from. They weren't in on those guys, and those guys are obviously the cream of the crop. And after that, there's a little bit of a drop off. And so I think if Jordan Love was available, they probably would have grabbed him in that second round. But then you wouldn't have Kyle Duggar from Lenore Ryan, and no one would know where Lenore Ryan is. So.
You'd still have him.
They probably would. That's probably true.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are. I think they're in with Stidham. I mean, they've got Hoyer, so I mean, it's I think with the way the Patriots play, I think Stidham is their man, and I think things are going to be okay. What are your thoughts? Let me just ask you guys another question. It's not Patriots related, but what are your thoughts about Tua? And I'll just quickly share mine. I'm not overly impressed. I mean, I watched the workout that everyone else watched. I do like the fact that he's lefty. I mean, one of my favorite quarterbacks is Steve Young, but he just seems very fragile. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, he's obviously good. You know, he's obviously take injuries out of it. He's a top 10 pick. He's a top 10 talent. He's got the talent, but I think the style of offense he played at Alabama was not conducive to not getting hurt. I guess, you know, I mean, he's probably, and is he going to have to play that same type of offense in Miami? And if he doesn't play that type of offense in Miami, is he going to be able to adjust to whatever Brian Flores wants him to do?
Right.
So I mean, I think Miami is so desperate that honestly they would have taken him if he was still in the cast. Truthfully, I think. I mean, I think they're so desperate for a savior in Miami that they've had such bad luck with quarterbacks ever since Dan Marino. So,
right.
So my thought on it, I think he's going to be either a star or a complete bust. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground with him.
Yeah.
Because he is a mobile quarterback, and you know, you generally they're either, you know, really good or they just can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And there are some red flags with him besides the injury. And I agree with you, Charlie, on the injury thing. If you look at his injury, it's not just the hip breaking the hip or whatever it was.
Right.
It is 2 or 3 major injuries for, you know, every year for the past 3 or 4 years. And that's getting hit by college players. Now he's going to get hit by some NFL players who are faster and quicker. And
he's playing the Dolphins, so you know he's going to get hit by people.
Right. So we'll see. Yeah. I was just wondering, you know, because I obviously I would like him to be successful, just not against the Patriots. But so we'll see what happens. And Josh, the other thing we had talked about last week is Tom Brady with Bruce Arians. You know, Mike and I are kind of in agreement that Bruce isn't going to call a single offensive play. It's going to be all Brady.
Oh, I don't think there's any question, but that's about that. I think Brady. Yeah, but they're giving Brady the keys to the car and saying, "Here, go, have at it for a year or two."
But I wanted your take, Josh, just on the first time that there's some disagreement between Tom and Bruce, or you know, how is that going to play out? Do you think?
Oh, Bruce is gone. If Tom Brady does something and he says this is what I want, that's what they're going to do. They're putting all of their eggs in Tom Brady. I mean, I don't think there's any. They are all in 150,000% on Tom Brady. And even if he's breaking into people's houses and going to parks where he's not supposed to, he's not gonna have any. He's not going to run into any obstacles besides the fact that he's playing for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have never been a good team to begin with.
Right.
And they are a much better team with him. So
yeah, well, and he certainly has some, you know, weapons around him.
Oh, absolutely.
And we think they're a better team, but you know, Tom Brady from last year was not that great of a quarterback. And I understand all the weapon arguments, and he didn't have many weapons and all this kind of stuff. But I've been taking the other side of this, Josh, for the past couple of weeks. So, you know, Charlie's used to this. I think that there are still question marks around Brady, even after this long. Because how will Brady do in another offense?
Oh, absolutely. Without a question, there's questions about Tom Brady. I love Tom Brady, and he's I think he's the best, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. You take your John Elways and your Joe Montanas, and he's in that discussion. But you're right. He's played in the Bill Belichick offense for billions of years now, it seems, and he knows that offense. How is he? I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's a quick study. He's a smart guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to learn the offense. But I also have a feeling that they're going to work the offense around what he can do. So you know, you take some, you know, okay, what Bruce Arians did last year with Jameis Winston is probably going to be different than what they're going to do with Tom Brady, because they're different players.
All right, so you're working the offense around Brady. So now that you're asking the receivers to understand more of what the offense is in New England, right? And we know how much success that has happened for some of these receivers to understand the New England offense.
It's probably why they brought Gronk in there, so they can have at least one receiver that he can trust right away, right out of the gate.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's leave the Patriots. Charlie he's getting up, let the dog in. But Charlie brought us a game this week, and so I'm going to turn it over to him, and he's going to describe what we're doing.
The dogs are whining, but I think they'll be okay for a few more minutes. All right. So, Josh, just you may have seen this. So I put together, this is baseball related, and I put together my list of the greatest first baseman. There's 3 of them: greatest second baseman, third baseman, shortstop, catcher, and DH. I did not do outfield. So what I'm going to ask you guys, so I'll give you the 3 players. I'm going to ask you to start one, bench one, and cut one, and then you can have commentary if you want to. All right. So
okay.
It's not really a game. It's your opinion, and you don't get a prize. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. No trophy for you.
Damn.
All right. So we're gonna start with first base. All right. We have Don Mattingly, Albert Pujols, and Miguel Cabrera. Mattingly, Pujols, and Cabrera.
Do you want me to go first, or do you?
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right.
I'll go first. All right. So I am starting Miguel Cabrera.
Okay.
I am on the bench. I'm going to have Albert Pujols, and I am cutting Don Mattingly.
That's just you don't like the Yankees.
I am doing the exact same thing because I hate Don Mattingly.
I think Don Mattingly is overrated.
Absolutely.
I think he was just
I agree.
overrated.
Agree 120%. My cousins are all Yankee fans in New York, and they were such huge Don Mattingly fans. And I'm like, oh, they never won a World Series with Don Mattingly. There's a reason for that. He comes back as hitting coach. They never won a World Series with him as hitting coach. There's a reason for that. He's not good. He just nope, no Don Mattingly. Give me Cabrera any day of the week.
You know, right. A first baseman, which is a power position. He was a slap hitter, except for 1 or 2 years where he had like 25 home runs. But the rest of it was 12, 13 home runs and whining. Oh, God, did he whine.
I'm with you.
What's yours on that one, Charlie?
So mine would be that I'm actually going to keep Don Mattingly on the bench, and I'm going to start Cabrera.
So Pujols got cut.
Yeah, so I cut Pujols. I mean, I like Pujols, but
Pujols is a big bat off the bench.
He is. What if I mix it up though? What if I had thrown in my all-time favorite, who really doesn't make the top 10, Will Clark? Any Will Clark fans out there? Will the Thrill?
Tell you a quick story. When I was playing in college, I loved Will Clark's swing.
Oh,
loved it.
Sweet swing.
And I had my best year of baseball ever was my junior year. I just all world, Division II college. And so that summer I was working on my swing, and I wanted to emulate Will Clark's swing. I went 0 for 30 in the fall. Emulating Will Clark's swing. So.
Okay, so only Will Clark.
I like Will Clark, but he doesn't break that Pujols Cabrera.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with you. All right, let's move on. Let's jump to third. Let's jump to third base.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go out on a limb here. My favorite player in the history of baseball plays third base. So George Brett, that's who it is. Mike Schmidt and Chipper Jones. Brett, Schmidt, and Chipper Jones.
Wow. I'll go first this time, Mike. So.
All
right. I think I'm starting George Brett. I have Mike Schmidt on the bench, and I'm getting rid of Chipper Jones.
Yeah.
I like Chipper Jones. I think he's a good baseball player. I think he's a marginal Hall of Famer. The other 2 guys are dead, no question, Hall of Famers.
So I'm close to you, Josh. I am going to start Mike Schmidt. I am going to bench George Brett, and I'm going to cut Chipper Jones. Larry Jones.
Larry.
Yeah. I can't believe you're benching George Brett. So
Anybody who throws a nutty like he did, he sits on the bench.
Oh, that's justifiable. So Brett is obviously starting for me. I'm going to have Schmidt on the bench, and I'm cutting Chipper Jones.
Didn't Mike Schmidt had over 500 home runs, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
The 500 club. How many did George Brett have?
Not more than 500.
All right, I was just wondering.
It's not all about the home runs, Mike. Okay. All right, let's go shortstop. So this is what I came up with. Shortstop, A-Rod, Ozzie Smith, and Cal Ripken Jr.
Oof! Oh boy!
And so, Josh, I forgot to tell you, by the way, these are, and I'm glad you're playing with us. These are all players that that we could have seen play. So, like, I didn't pick Lou Gehrig or Babe Ruth. Okay. All right.
Oof. See, this is the conundrum here because Ozzie Smith, the best defensive shortstop of all time.
Yeah.
Cal Ripken Jr., the steadiest player of all time. Never a huge power hitter, never a huge I mean, an average to above average defensive shortstop. The problem with A-Rod is the best offensive shortstop of all time, as much as he's a douchebag. But I think I'm looking. I always look at shortstop as not as a big, heavy hitting position. I look at it as more as a fielding position. So I'm starting Ozzie Smith, and I'm putting Cal Ripken on the bench, and I'm cutting A-Rod just because I don't like him again.
All right, Mike. What do you think?
I'm helping Timothy behind the scenes here. He's trying to write all these down and keep up with us. So, all right. This is not going to be popular. I'm just going to strictly. I am starting Alex Rodriguez.
He's the best hitting shortstop of all time. I will not.
Steroids and all. And when he, before he really bulked up, I mean, he was the best shortstop in the league before he went to the Yankees to play.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. When he was playing Seattle and Texas, yeah, he was legitimately. That's how I choose to think of him. I choose to think of him as Seattle and Texas guy as opposed to a Yankee. But I hate
him. I really do. I can't stand him. And
that's why I wouldn't want.
One of my all-time heroes because of him punching him in the mouth. So it's I'm going to put on the bench Ozzie Smith, and I'm going to cut Cal Ripken Jr. Now, the reason for cutting Cal Ripken Jr. and I like Cal Ripken Jr. and the streak and all that other kind of stuff, but was he more known for the streak or his quality of play? Would he have been known as Cal Ripken without the streak?
Yeah, he was an all-star. I mean, he was a perennial all-star. I mean, he was the American League shortstop in the All-Star game numerous times. So
how many times did he do that because of the streak, though? How many times have you voted him because of the streak?
I don't know because this is going back to when I was still a kid, but I know that he was. It was not uncommon for him to be the starting shortstop on the American League All-Star team year after year after year. I mean, I know at the end it was more about the streak and it was more about this is an honor for a lifetime career. But I think in the beginning, I mean, obviously he was certainly a
good enough to be an all-star.
Yeah, and he was a solid offensive player. I mean, he was never going to hit you tons of home runs or anything, but and back then shortstops didn't need to hit the home runs. It wasn't until nowadays where, last 10 years or so, since Alex Rodriguez really, that they started saying, okay, well, we're going to have shortstops are going to hit for more power.
Right.
All right, Charlie, what do you got?
I'm actually the same as Josh. So we're going to say goodbye to Rodriguez.
I'm simply doing that because I think he's a cancer on a team. That's why.
I mean, for me, Ozzie Smith. I mean, he's the wizard, right? So he's amazing. So Ozzie's going to start, and then Cal Ripken will.
So we're not. So you're starting Ozzie. We're not incorporating any kind of offensive numbers into these things. It's just defensive.
Hey, there are sometimes you have to give up offense in a position to get to have the defense.
All right, we're moving over to let's go to catcher. All right. So
we got 4 minutes left, guys. So
all right. So catcher, we got Pudge Rodriguez, Mike Piazza, Carlton Fisk. Rodriguez, Piazza, Carlton Fisk.
I'm going to go quickly. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say Fisk starts, Rodriguez is on the bench, and Piazza gets cut.
I'm going to do almost that same thing, but just a little bit different. I'm also cutting Piazza, but I'm having Pudge Rodriguez be my starter, and Carlton Fisk would be on my bench.
Okay, and I'm going to go with Pudge as my starter, Fisk on my bench, and Piazza is cut. All right, let's do the last one here. Let's do.
What about second base? We're going to get second base?
I want to go to DH, though. Let me go to DH.
All right, you go to DH.
Okay. So designated hitter. We've got Frank Thomas, David Ortiz, Edgar Martinez. Thomas, Ortiz, Martinez.
Well, there's no question David Ortiz is starting for me. I think he's the greatest DH of all time. Then I'm going to put Edgar Martinez on my bench, and I'll cut Frank Thomas.
Oh, the big hurt's going? Oh.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Walt Reniak screwed up Frank Thomas for his whole vision about his whole career. So when you weigh 260 pounds and you swing one-handed and do that little follow-through Reniak, that's just garbage. A 600 or 700 home run guy, but he ended up being not that. He got 400, I think.
Yeah.
Awful. That's an absolutely awful decision bringing Reniak into Chicago.
All right, and I'm the same way. I'm going to start Ortiz. I'm going to cut Thomas, and I'm going to bench Martinez. All right, here we go. Second base. This will be the last of this. All right, we have Roberto Alomar, Ryan Sandberg, and Robinson Cano.
I'm going to be Sandberg starts, Alomar, Cano gets cut.
Okay.
And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I think that Ryan Sandberg is the man at second base.
Ryan Sandberg was the man, and he did not have a really long career.
Yeah. No, he didn't. No.
He left on top. When he retired, he was on top.
I'm just disappointed Marty Barrett's not in this conversation, Charlie, because he's my favorite second baseman of all time.
Marty Barrett, man.
He's my favorite second baseman of all time.
Yeah, that's good.
I was a second baseman, and I always loved Marty Barrett.
Yeah, I love Marty Barrett as well. So, yeah. But I don't like Alomar, so I'm gonna cut him, but I'm gonna start Sandberg and put Cano on the bench. All right, we do need to do one thing, and Josh, thanks for hanging with us, by the way. For the
course.
One of the things we need to thank our sponsors, but before we do that, we have to do Athletes of the Week.
Oh, Jesus.
I have it right here. I got it. I got my phone.
Thank you for reminding me on that.
So Athletes of the Week. This week, the female athlete of the week is Irina Pettit for softball, and the male athlete of the week is Oleg Sheehan for baseball. What Coach Shaw had to say about Irina Pettit. Irina has been nominated by Coach Shaw. Coach Shaw shares that Irina deserves this recognition based on her dedication to the softball program. From fall ball through winter workouts and extra lessons, seeing her outside hitting the tee by herself, Coach Shaw shares that Irina is a team captain and a natural-born leader. So congratulations to Irina Pettit for softball. Our male athlete, Oleg Sheehan, nominated by Coach Skelly. Coach Skelly shares that Oleg attends every off-season workout, has the respect of his team, and is a three-sport athlete. Coach Skelly also notes that Oleg is polite, works hard, and understands the importance of working with the younger kids in the program at the youth level. So congratulations to Oleg Sheehan.
And Charlie, thank you for remembering that.
Sure.
I completely blanked it at the beginning. Let's thank our sponsors, Downtown Grill and Cafe.
Skelly's Market.
And Morrissey's Fortune Pub. And
yes.
We want to thank Timothy Goodwin behind the scenes, who is trying to keep up with our baseball game. And Josh, thanks for hanging around with us.
Hey, no problem.
It was nice to have you on, and that's going to do it for us. Anything else, Charlie?
No, that's not it. Go Knights.
Go Knights.
Thanks again.
See you
See ya.
All right. See you guys.